Hey everybody, my name is Anna and I work at the McDowell Environmental Center.
My name is Michael and I also work at the McDowell Environmental Center.
And we're here today to talk to you about our Food for Thought program.
As many of you students who have been here know, our Food for Thought program takes place in Epps Dining Hall after each meal. And we talked about the environmental impacts of food production, food services, and how that affects the natural world.
A really big part of our Food for Thought program is understanding the impacts of food waste. And you might be asking yourself, what is food waste? That's a great question. Food waste is any food that you purchase or you put on your own personal plate that ends up being thrown in the garbage can instead of being consumed or used for another purpose. So in our country today, we have a really big problem with food waste. 30 to 40% of all of the food that we produce to go to grocery stores and things like that ends up going in the trash anyway.
That's right. 150,000 tons of food waste is produced per day. That's equal to about a pound per person per day.
And yearly, we actually end up using about 30 million acres of land to grow food that ends up going in the trash. So an acre is about the size of a football field. So if you can picture in your head 30 million football fields, that's a lot of land that we're using that is producing food that we don't even use.
Fruits and veggies are the most likely food to be thrown out. That's followed by dairy and then lastly meats. So today we want to talk to you about ways that you can reduce food waste in your own home.
We have this list here. Number one is you can ask for smaller portions. So here at Camp McDowell, one of the things that we really think are important is your own personal choice of what you put on your plate. And so if you ask for smaller portions, then you can eat slower and only eat the things that you need to fulfill your body's needs. And then anything that's left over in that pot or pan that was used to cook your meal, those things can go in the fridge and be eaten later as leftovers.
Number two, loving your leftovers. Loving your leftovers means things like putting them in Tupperwares. You could buy Tupperware like this Ziploc one, or you could in fact reuse plastics from the store like our hummus container. Also, something you could do is put the date that you've made your leftovers. That will give you a better idea of when those leftovers might go bad by, so you know when to eat them.
Number three is shop smart. So this includes things like making sure that when you go shopping at the grocery store, you don't go hungry, because a lot of impulse buying can happen when you are shopping when you're hungry, and that can contribute to our food waste. You can also take with you some reusable bags, and this helps cut down on our plastic waste as well.
Number four, buying ugly fruits and veggies. Ugly fruit and veggies often taste just as good, and are also often cheaper, so they can help you save some money. And fruits like bananas with bad spots, they can still be used for things like smoothies, and apples that have bad spots can still be sliced up and made into really delicious apple pies.
Cool. Number five is check the fridge first. So before you go shopping, you can make sure you check out what you already have in your fridge so that you don't buy things you already have. And in our house, we like to use a whiteboard that helps us remember what we have in the fridge. So before we go shopping at the grocery store, we check out that list and see what we already have to make sure we're not overbuying.
Number six, understanding the dates on your food. People often think that the sell-by date that is stamped on their food tells exactly when that food is going to go bad. But in fact, that's just when the store has to sell it by. It's often still good, most foods up to a week after that. This milk, for example, when did that milk expire, Anna?
This date says March 28th.
I had that milk for breakfast this morning and it was still really good. And this goes for a lot of other foods. If you want to learn more about these dates, some good resources is USDA and the FDA, and you can check out those government websites.
So number seven is turn your waste into compost. So nobody's perfect. Everyone is going to have a little food waste every now and then. And when that does happen, you can turn that waste into compost that you can do in your own backyard. Things that are really good to compost are things like plain fruits and vegetables that haven't been cooked or don't have any oil on them. The peels, cores, and stems to those things especially. Coffee grounds and the filters for your coffee maker are great to put in your compost, as well as tea leaves and the tea bags can go in there. And eggshells also are really great to go in your compost pile. And to make a compost pile, all you need is a 2-to-1 ratio of things like yard clippings, leaves, things like that to your kitchen waste, which are those things that we just talked about.
And number 8, our final one, sharing is caring. Now we know this is a hard one to do given the current situation, but still donating to food banks and giving to those in need is very necessary because there are those that can't provide for themselves. And it can help us reduce our food waste overall.
So if you find yourself with an excess of food, that's okay. In order to make sure that those things don't go bad, if you know you're not going to use them in time, you can donate them to your local food bank. There's been a lot of organized efforts recently to donate food like that, in which you don't have to touch or come into contact with anyone, and those things can still be useful instead of just being dumped in the trash.
It is also important to remember that when buying items to look for a special label on the price tag that is WIC, W-I-C. Those are items that are designated for recipients of WIC, and those are the only items that those recipients can buy in a store with their WIC benefits. So when you can avoid buying those items, please do, because when those items run out, it's possible that those WIC recipients won't be able to get any of that item.
These are just a few things that you and your family can do at home right now in order to help solve the food waste crisis that is going on in our country right now.
Camp McDowell and the Environmental Center really miss all of you, and thank you so much for logging on to this video and all of our others. Please keep doing that. And we want to remind you that zeros are heroes, and you can always go for zero food waste on your own plate.